Okay, so this is, as we said earlier, this is our digital marketing part 3. This is part 3 in a series of digital marketing webinars that we are doing, about one a month. And today's topic is defining your ideal customer and target market. And I'm going to turn the presentation over to Peter and to Riley Butcher.
Great, awesome, thank you. Okay, so thank you. Appreciate the introduction, Tony. Let me just get my screen set up here so that we can share appropriately. Cool, very good. I'm going to take a moment and put in my contact information for everyone. So it's in the chat if everybody wants to get in touch with me at the end of the presentation. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tony and Suzanne, for the introductions and the background information about SCORE and everything that we're doing. Many people that I talk to talk about SCORE being and I say to them, it's the best kept business secret in the United States, period. There is not enough people who know about what SCORE does and the mission that SCORE has. And all of the mentors do their part in trying to educate everyone about exactly what SCORE does, how they help it. And the best part is it's free. You don't have to pay anything. So please take some time, take a look at the score.org site, and this will be great. So getting into defining your ideal customers and understanding your target audience. Our jobs as business owners and marketers are to understand how the customer wants to buy and help them to do so. That's a quote from Brian Eisenberg. He's a New York Times best-selling author, and it's about talking about defining the perfect target audience or market, and it's a challenge faced by all industries across the entire world. So today we're going to really talk about buyer personas, being able to understand your target audience, improve and refine your interaction with that target audience, and ultimately turn them into customers and your raving fans. Now I'm having technical challenges. Okay, so as was mentioned before, this is the 3rd webinar in our SCORE Southeast New Jersey digital marketing series. You can find them on some of the previous webinars on score.org and on our YouTube channel. As Tony provided an introduction, my name is Peter Bemko, and I'm joined by my colleague, Riley Butcher. I am a SCORE mentor, and I am the social media chair for Southeast New Jersey SCORE. I'm a digital marketing consultant working as part of WSI, a global digital marketing agency, and I have 30 years of experience in technology and business management, helping impact client relationships. Riley, how about a bit about yourself?
Yeah, quick highlight. So I work with Peter pretty closely, but also in the world of WSI. So I have a ton of experience in the franchising world and the scaling side of that, and more so from a marketing standpoint. So I've been in and out of the world of digital marketing for the better part of 4+ years, just helping various business owners in varying industries kind of start, grow, and optimize their online presence. So thanks, Peter.
Awesome. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate it. So we're really glad that you're here today. We're going to take some time to take a look at the steps that you can take to help you define your ideal customer and create those buyer personas that'll help you understand your target audience better. I want to start to see who's on the call today. So Tony, if you would be so kind as to create the poll. So are you a business owner? Do you help somebody manage a business? I had a client call just the other day of somebody who was part of a company that they were trying to figure out some accounting information. They had some questions there. So this is really for anyone who is looking to understand who their target market is, who the people that they want to reach out to. So Tony, do we have some results coming back?
Yes, we do. We have mostly business owners. I think we've had 13 of 16 people respond so far. We have 10 business owners, 2 people looking to start a business, and 1 person here just to learn, along with me. I'm here. So I can share it. Okay.
Oh,
so those
awesome.
are the results of the poll. I didn't know I could
Awesome.
share them. Okay, so there we go. Okay, we're going to stop sharing and let you move on.
No, that's perfect, Tony. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So that's very helpful to understand who's here, and learning is part of things that we do every single day. There isn't a day that goes by that I'm not learning something new from everybody that I encounter. And having a learning mindset is one of the things that really helps us move forward in what we want to do. Okay, so today, kind of let's go over what we're going to discuss, right? We'll talk about what is a buyer persona. Do you really need one? And why do you need one? We'll go over a series of steps to create that buyer persona, and we'll introduce the concept of an empathy map. Once we have a persona defined, we'll do an example of using that to customize your content, personalizing those messages that you email to your clients and your prospects. And then we'll wrap up with things to do to get started to creating those personas and improving your digital marketing strategy. So let's talk about defining that ideal client, right? Did you know that businesses that use buyer personas generate 4 times more leads and have 72% higher chance of closing sales? Creating buyer personas helps you better understand your target audiences and helps you create more effective marketing and sales strategies. So who are they, right? What are the things that we're looking for? It's their demographics. It's their characteristics. Are they wealthy? Are they middle class? Are they affluent? Do they like outdoor adventures? Are they like Riley, who loves to golf? Okay. Are they like me, who likes to go out on his bike rides? Okay. Those are the things you want to try to isolate, or not isolate. You want to try to highlight for yourself on what they're doing. What do they want? What are they looking for? What are the problems they're looking to solve? Think about an easier way to get to the airport, or trying to enjoy a healthy meal while spending time with their family and not doing takeout again. Or like me, I never want to cut the grass again on Saturday morning. Those would be things that we want to understand what they're looking for. Then you want to think about how you're going to communicate with them. How do they find out about you? Is it someone that recommended you? Are they doing a search for, as Suzanne probably did, a plumber near me, right? Did they get a text message or a newspaper article? Or are they a social media influencer, right? We're going to talk about all of that stuff and more. Riley, did I miss anything on defining that?
No, I think you hit everything spot on. It's just really understanding who they are, where they go, how they think, and how we connect with them. So that was spot on.
Awesome. And according to the Digital Marketing Institute, personalized campaigns that are based on a buyer persona can drive up to 18 times more revenue than a standard broadcast email. So definitely something to keep in mind. We're going to grab one more poll before we keep going. So in our first question, this will be in 2 parts, okay? How many people have actually put down a written description of your target market? Okay, and again, we probably have, as business owners, we have all of this in our heads. We think about, oh, I really need somebody who has this type of a lifestyle or does this type of work, or lives in this type of a house or has this many kids. But have you actually written it down? Have you actually thought about it and put it down to be able to clearly articulate who they are? So how do we do? Great. Okay. So at around 40% of folks who answered the poll have one. Fantastic. You're a step ahead in understanding who you're trying to work with and who you are. And for those who haven't, this is a great opportunity to start to refine that process and look at what is possible. So in our second question, let's take it one step deeper, because that's really what we want to go to. How many people have actually done a set of buyer personas? Or have you tried to start one, tried to create one? The process can be daunting, like any process that we start to do. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. You get sidetracked. you don't devote enough time to it, or life just gets in the way sometimes. So how do we do, Tony? Any
Well, we did target market as opposed to
okay, we didn't
more
do the second one. Okay,
one. Yeah, we didn't do the
Well-
second. We didn't do the second one.
all good, all good, all good. So what is a buyer persona? What are we actually doing here? A buyer persona is really a semi-fictional representation of your ideal client. Essentially, it's a profile. It includes demographic information, behaviors, key details about what they want and how they're doing. Again, it helps you understand your customers and motivates them in how they make buying decisions. Buyer personas help you create a more personalized and targeted marketing message that speaks directly to that ideal customer. It's not a one-size-fits-all endeavor. It's not an one-size-fits-all thing to use. And you can have multiple buyer personas depending on the different types of customers that you might have. For instance, if you sell pet products, you may have a buyer persona for dogs or cat owners or even bird owners. This is creating these as an accurate representation will help you send messages to those buyers in a more concise and direct way. Now, as you're developing your buyer personas, it might be tempting to map out all sorts of demographic details about them, right? Things that may or may not come into play for what you do. And that's okay, but think in terms of the basics, right? The buyer persona is a tool to use to understand who your customers are, what motivates them, and how they make purchasing decisions. Why do we need buyer personas, right? Think in terms of it's impossible to put together a successful marketing campaign if you don't know who you're marketing to. Trying to communicate with everyone means no one may hear your message, or the message that you're putting out there is diluted. It doesn't ring true for that one particular person. You want to understand the specific buyers you're trying to reach. Again, what keeps them awake at night, what they're interested in, but also what they're not interested in. And what we've seen is that from a poll by VentureBeat and McKinsey, a business that focuses on customers can increase their profits by up to 60% and lower their sales and marketing costs by between 10 and 20%. I think we can all agree that that is significant, which is why we should really think about doing buyer personas. So I'm going to ask Riley to help me do a little bit more about the top 5 reasons why we need to have buyer personas and define them appropriately.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So, I mean, I think kind of what you're alluding to in some of the stats, right, is how impactful learning and understanding your business's buyer persona will impact the bottom line, the revenue, the profit. But one and foremost, it's winning more business, increasing your revenue, period, right? If we actually know who we're targeting, we know what their needs are, their pain points are, we're going to spend a lot less money acquiring that customer. And ideally, they're just going to actually buy more from us as we continue to nurture them as well. When you look at your brand, your business, or the business that you're building, as I know there's a couple people in here starting a business or thinking through that, is what are your unique selling points? So what makes you different? If you are, like whatever the brand, it could be a service you're providing, it could be a product you're providing, but how does that make you different in the marketplace? But then how are you promoting that? Through social media, through advertising, through emails? Like, how do they actually know your unique selling points? And what those points are tied into the actual person we're talking about, that persona that's been built. Boilerplate marketing. So wanting to obviously avoid that at all costs, meaning like we're not trying to, in a way, market to everybody, if that makes sense. So we're really keeping it simple. And that way people are understanding that this message is for me. And that's the biggest thing. Like they feel like How did they know this is what I was thinking or this is what I was feeling? Which that is a marketer's dream, right? And it's a brand's dream to be able to connect to their customers that way. Wooing your customer with the perfect message, I will say. So again, imagine someone is feeling a certain way, or they're talking to themselves, or they're visualizing certain things, and all of a sudden they see an image and it's your brand and it's describing and showing that same image in that buyer persona's head, or the words in their brain is now being spelled out in an audio video of some sort. It's so much that they can connect to it, and their client, like them, they're just like, they have to click into this. I have to learn more about this brand because like they're literally offering what I need. And then and I think the last point is just the missing link. So if there is something along the journey or related to your buyer persona, how are we identifying that missing piece? A lot of it could be tied to talking to these prospective customers. It could be talking to current customers to maybe understand their path or their journey. But once we can identify whether there is something or not, what that missing link is, it then allows us to just have a much deeper meaning into the messaging to our end client and our potential buyer. So they convert and they become a raving fan at the end of the day.
And that's what we want. We want those raving fans. Absolutely. Thanks, Riley. Appreciate it. And, you know, when you start to do some of this as your next step, you may already have started it. Hopefully you'll be able to take away some of the additional details on this. So let's talk about, like when we think about that messaging, it's a persuasive intersection, right? We have this kind of bubble around what we think we want to say to the buyer, but then there is what the buyer wants to hear. So, and as Riley was talking about, it's that intersection between those that's the optimum buying message, the one that really calls to them and says, hey, yeah, I want to find out about this brand. I want to see more about what they're doing because it speaks to me. They really understand my problem. So buyer personas definitely help you understand this intersection and allow you to cope with this in creating more persuasive content and sales copy. So let's take a moment to talk about, what do we need about personas? So Riley, feel free to jump in at any point in time, right? But how many do you actually need, right? Are there 10 or 20? As you start to do some of this work, you might have people going, oh, what about the person that does this and that? And you start to slice down really into minute categories. According to the Buyer Persona Institute, and there is such a thing as the Buyer Persona Institute, 3 to 5 buyer personas is all that a business needs, or as much as it can really handle. You don't need any more than that.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to just pry into that piece a bit. I think there's an element of analysis paralysis, obviously, when we think there's like a bajillion or, many different personas. And don't get me wrong, I think every brand's going to have 2 to 3 for sure. And not just through the lens, and we'll get into this a bit more specifically, but not just through the demographic side, but like the psychographic side, which is very different. And it changes your messaging a lot. It changes how people are viewing your product or service and why they need your product or service. So, but ideally you are thinking through 1 minimum, maybe even to 3 personas that make up the core of your business. Like 80 to 90% of my customers are this. And like, how do I connect with them through my messaging?
Yep, agreed. That's great. Thanks for adding that in. So I've decided to take a couple of, here's some questions, right? That you can start to ask yourself, right? Thinking, as Riley mentioned, what are their demographic characteristics? What are their problems? What are their challenges? Their pain points? Again, what's important for them, right? What resonates with them, the content and piece. And one of the first steps you can do is talk to your current customers. Take a look at them. Have a conversation with them and ask them questions about why they purchased. If you can't have a conversation with them, you could look at the data. Hopefully you've got some Google Analytics running on your website, so you can take a look at what pages they're clicking on, See, that'll tell you what appeals to them in your content, what they're actually looking for. And if you're doing Facebook or Facebook ads, there's an audience insight tool, very similar to the Google Analytics, that'll help you kind of do that data analysis. And Riley, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Facebook Audience Insights actually provides a little of that psychographic information too.
Yeah, if you think through interests, behaviors, like that's where we get more into the psychographic side, which you can target that, which I think is amazing, because then your messaging can obviously tweak a ton and compared to someone's interests versus someone else's. So absolutely.
Absolutely. Cool. So I'm going to take the next step and introduce an empathy map. So it was created by David Gray, and it's a visual tool that helps to develop a deeper understanding for other people. Sorry, I missed a slide. So this is a way we'll I know we're kind of, I don't want to cut late on time for Q&A and such, but to research this, you can look at your existing data. You can look at, again, demographic information or customer survey and do customer surveys, all right, and checking things out. But let's take a look at the empathy map, okay? This map can give you a tool. Again, it's obviously challenged to fill out when you first look at this, but let's take it step by step and we'll do an example of this. Again, this covers all of the main detail of who are we talking about, right? What do they want to know? What don't they want to know? How do they buy from us? What are their pains? So you really want to start with who are we talking about? So as an example, we'll talk about Mary, right? She's a single mom. She likes to travel. She has 2 or 3 kids that she needs to get fed or get to their all their after school activities all the time. So then we start to go into what are her pains? She thinks about, right, how can I get help with this? Or why does this always happen to me? Like, why do I always have to get up Saturday morning and cut the grass? Or it's always different. So that's the pain that she's going through. And then let's talk about what the gain is, right? Can she get something like that delivered, right? What does she want? Does she want somebody to come in and cut her grass, period, right? And it looks perfect and pristine for her. Or is she looking for a meal service that might help her? And a meal service is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later as we go through this, okay? So let's talk about what they want to know about your product, right? Do you have information on your site, or are you communicating information about how she can do something or how she can get something accomplished, or what you do to help them get that accomplished, okay? It's also just important to talk about the things that she doesn't want to know about. So I used the example of technical details. A lot of people just eyes glaze over when you start to talk about, oh, this does this and this is how it does it. Don't really care. Just let me know that it does it, and then I don't have to do anything about it. But now we really want to get into the hard stuff. Why would Mary want to buy from us? Why would Mary want to buy that lawn service? Why would she want to buy that particular meal service? And then our last final piece is how does she find out about it? Does she get a referral from her friends? Does she see it on a blog post? Is there an influencer that she follows to do any of that stuff? So let's take an example, right, of this. Mary's a single mom, and she's just trying to do the right thing for her kids, right? And let's talk about her pain point. She's not spending enough time with their kids, right? Is that because let's say she's coming home from a long day of work and now has to sit down and cook dinner, and stuff's in the refrigerator, stuff's in the freezer, it's kind of all over the place, right? So now if you're doing a meal service, right, you can actually start to talk to her about, hey, you can enjoy dinner time more, right? We can either deliver it to you, or we can deliver you a ready-made meal that you don't have to work with. And what does she want to know, right? How much time is it going to take me to do this? Do I have all of the implements to do it? Do I have all the right pots and pans and the special whisk or stir or things that I need to make this happen? But maybe what she doesn't want to know, maybe she doesn't care about who endorsed it, or she doesn't care about the fact that you spent 2 years developing this to make it palatable. Now we start to talk about why buy from us, why buy from you as the business owner. Is it based on convenience, that her kids will actually like the food and enjoy it? And then we're back to, where do you find us, right? Where do you find it? Is it through Facebook? Is it through an email, right? Is it a Google ad or things like that, right? So let's talk about some questions that you could start to ask yourself as you go through this process. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but what I want to highlight for you, and that Riley has mentioned a couple times, is it's in the communication. We talk about tone and language, right? So these are the things that help you to understand that client in a better way, right? Talk about what information appeals to them. So Riley, I know you've been through a creation of a number of buyer personas, right? How's your experience been in that?
No, yeah. So this is interesting. I did have some points and comments I wanted to make on the demo psycho side, is kind of what you're seeing here. So one thing I think people need to understand right off the bat is the difference between demo and psycho. So think of demographics is very much like gender, age, maybe their occupation as well, maybe where they live. Think of that as your demo. Your psycho is very much more into, they like to hike. Maybe they're someone who's saving money. Maybe they love animals. Maybe they love to cook. I know I like Tony's comment there a little bit about Peter, but maybe they like to cook. So different elements there. Think of like family values, like they love to spend time with their family. So you have your demographic on one side. What are those elements? You have your psychographics on the other. So when you're thinking through psychographics, and this is something that I kind of wanted to hit home a bit, and it's not on the slide, but definitely something you guys will capture through the audio, is one is personalities. So like, who is this person? And think of personalities, like simple example is introvert versus extrovert, right? You got someone who's talking to everyone. You got someone who's maybe off in the corner having some solitude. So if you're selling or your service is something related to fishing, right? And you're trying to target a psychographic individual who is introverted, well, you might have an image of one person on a fishing boat fishing in 6 a.m. when it's super quiet and blissful. That's going to connect with an introvert versus having 10 people out fishing in some sort of competition, with music blaring and all this other stuff going on. Very different, right? When you think of that personality and how we can connect with them. The second thing you can think of is lifestyles. So think of lifestyles in the sense where, imagine you have like a meditation app or a yoga app, which is very, popular in these days where people are getting into that. And think of, what if that person's lifestyle was this like super big Saturday night, Friday night partier. And next thing you know, on your meditative app, to attract them, you might say, hey, this is how you calm your lifestyle down, right? Because you're connecting with the lifestyle that they have. Okay. Very different story. You think of interests. So we talked a little bit about interests with our Mary persona when it comes to like meals and what have you on that side. But when you think of interests, so one could be if you are an online poker site, for example, and you notice that a lot of your people on your website like sports. So you might have ads or messaging related to sports to get people on your poker website to start playing poker, because it makes sense. They have the same interests. Last thing is opinions, attitudes, and beliefs. So what do the opinions, what are the attitude, what are the beliefs of these psychographics that are part of my persona, and values, last but not least. The one piece that I think is so critical for everyone here to understand is this thing called priority initiatives. So what I mean by priority initiatives is, what exactly is that emotion that creates my buyer to make and take action, right? Like I might look at my house in my living room and I'm like, man, that ugly green wall that we've had for 20 years and we know we need to paint it, what creates them in that moment to say, we need to paint that, like we need to call a painter, right? And how are we then going to be at the forefront where they might see our ad and actually have a husband and a wife sit on a couch and be like, wow, that is the ugliest wall we've seen for 20 plus years. And I would love to get that change. And all of a sudden they're like, whoa, like we just had this conversation, wild. And they're going to end up calling that painting company for a quote because they connected to that message, right? Or maybe there's crayon scribble on all these walls from your kids growing up. And they're like, okay, I don't have time to paint. I have kids that are now in their teen years. That's a whole different psychographic and message. But then these parents are like, sweet, we got to get rid of our pink walls when my daughter was 7 and loved Barbies and all that kind of stuff. So as you can imagine, your messages can very much change based on not just the demographic, but the psychographic aspect. So that's kind of the piece I wanted to drive home there. And hopefully that connects with you guys, like in your own brands or even like companies that you guys are looking to start.
Awesome. Awesome. That was great. Wonderful insight, Riley. Thank you so much. Because a lot of times we forget about the psychographics. We don't think in the depth that you went into about who it is that our potential clients are. So when we think about the output of that target persona, that buyer, that empathy map that we've done, right? Here's a sample for a patio heater company, and they've talked about what they would want to have, right? That they're a little bit more affluent couple. They're looking to use their outdoor space a little bit more, but they're worried about the tipping over, and what are they going to get for the ability to use it? So this would be a sample that you could use, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. So some of them can be very simple, just some individual lines filled out, but others that are not. So what next? What do you do now that you have this? So now that you know that who you're targeting, really there's no excuse to have boilerplate content, right? You're able to use what you've got in the buyer persona and really put the right personalized message, whether it's in your emails, your blog posts, or your paid advertising and such. The other thing that you really want to think about is take a look at your current clients and segment them. The segment would be to start to say, okay, you fit in over here in this type of this particular buyer persona, you fit in over here. Then that'll help you to understand a better message to send them. So you might do an email campaign that talks about a new sale, but you could try to change the words in either the subject line or the first couple sentences to attract that other buyer to talk about a different pain point, but yet still continue to bring them into your store or to do what you need to do. Okay. This buyer persona is also going to help you to identify influencers, right? It's both on the psychographic and the demographic side who can help you build your business and connect to your clients. And it'll also help you select the right channels, because some people won't use Facebook, but other people are on Facebook 18 of 20 hours, right? Playing games and doing any number of other things. So let's just kind of go into a couple of applications there. As a buyer goes through their journeys, right, you can change your messaging based on where they are. And this is what the buyer persona allows you to do. And I've just kind of created a couple of quick ideas here of messaging you can do in that buyer journey. So if they're just getting aware of their problems, you could be giving them an ad or some content that asks about why they feel sluggish in the morning. Okay, you could talk about things that, do they want to spend more time with their family? If we use the meal example, right? If they've said, oh yeah, I do want to do that, and I spend too much time cooking in my kitchen, it takes me hours to get a meal on the plate, right? You could then start to think in terms of, oh, well, here's 3 ways that we can help you. Okay, and if you've got this meal planning or meal delivery service called Fresh Foods, you could say, okay, here's 3 ways meal plans help you start to get them thinking about it, to considering, or even have someone do a post or a blog post or a Facebook post that says, hey, here's 5 things I learned after a month of using this. Here's how my life changed based on using this. And then as they've made that decision, you can start to do other messaging, which talks about here's how we take the hassle out of doing meal prep, or here's how much time you can get back. Riley, any other examples that you could think of?
No, I know. I think it's just being aware of what stage, and then obviously the message that we want to direct to them, or for them to receive at that specific stage. So nothing to, like, I would say, specifically add here. I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, cool. Awesome. So let's bring it all together, right? As you start off, you want to make sure that you start to define that target market, define your ideal customers. Okay, you want to understand who that is. Think of it as if you were the author of a novel. You're creating a story here, right? You're doing character development, right? You're either going to make the character a hero or a villain. You're assigning them character traits and behaviors so that your readers can either relate to them, like them, or hate them and show disdain. So that's really what you're doing with your buyer personas. You're making them more realistic so that you have that closer communication with them. So the next step you're going to do is you're going to add some depth by doing the empathy map. You're going to dig into some of the psychographics, the demographic information. You're going to also explore your unique selling proposition, right? How do you have to adjust that in order to connect with those clients? You're then going to think in terms of documenting your insights. What did you find? Really asking yourself that question, is there something new here? Have I changed the way that I'm thinking about my products and services? One of the things that I've found when I've worked with folks on these is they actually say, oh, I was about to develop this type of service, but based on who I'm actually selling to, that's not what they want. And I need to adjust so that I can really get more clients, because I'll just, I'll be creating, I'll be a solution in search of a problem for folks. Hopefully that'll resonate for people, because there's so many apps that do that today. Okay, so now the last piece is you want to actually then take action and put that do the segmentation piece, right? Take your client lists and see where they fall within all of that. And maybe they all fall in one or two, but you've actually identified a third business persona, a third buyer persona, that it's a new market for you that you haven't tried yet. So this is the other aspect of doing buyer personas. And then you want to review your existing content, make the updates, and make it personalized. So hopefully that's really taking you through, it's really a chunk of how buyer personas work. There is so much other information that we could be doing with you and digging into the information that you'd want to start to look at. So, but let me wrap up, and hopefully you'll join us for our next webinar, right? This will be part 4 in our series, and it'll be about planning your digital strategy and generating demand. So we'll start talking about implementing some of the things that we've talked about, where how you can actually get out onto email marketing or content marketing. If you're looking for additional information prior to that, we have the Digital Minds book that's available on Amazon. So definitely check that out. And if you want some more help, I'm available, right? If you want to help getting started, if you want that trail guide to help you go through and navigate the pitfalls, be happy to do that. Or if you even want it done for you, this is how to get in touch with me. And as part of this, I've actually created a series of resources that you can use in order to dig deeper for this. There's a really good number of SCORE documents and webinars that are available. And HubSpot, which is the last link, really provides a very in-depth analysis on what to do step by step. And it's really great for somebody who wants to do it on their own. That'll be wonderful. So Riley, anything to add to close up?
No, nothing to add. I think we can probably open it up if there's Q&A. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good start there, maybe, and then I'm sure we might have a couple more comments to add as we go, but no.
Yeah, if you would add your comments into the chat so that everyone can see them, that would be helpful. So if you have any questions, type away.